So about probably 2 months ago now, I spoke to Mark Livingston, who's another one of the athletes that I coach, and I've known Mark for many years. So chatting to him is quite easy because I already know his background quite well. But I'm well aware that a lot of the other people that I coach are quite new acquaintances and hopefully friends. But we've only been working together for about 2 or 3 months now. But I think we've managed to meet up quite a few times and get to know each other reasonably well. And I think what would be interesting for a lot of people is to understand your situation and your story and what's got you to where you are today. Because I think you'll be very typical of a lot of ladies who do triathlon, and you can give a good insight into what it is that you get from the sport and
Yeah.
also from the coaching group and everything else. So just start off, Sarah, by telling us a little bit about your current circumstances with family life and work life, and just give us a little bit of background to that.
Okay, so I'm quite lucky in that, well, lucky I guess for me, because I don't have any children, although I have just got a pet, which is scuppered things slightly for the last couple of days, but I'm married. But I've never, obviously not had children, so, and I work quite a lot, so and my office is 220 miles away from where I live, which can be a bit of a challenge sometimes, but it does mean that I either work away for a few days at a time, but then the rest of the time I will work at home. So before we went into lockdown and everything, I'd probably be away for 2 or 3 nights a week, but working at home 2 days a week. And then obviously more recently, it's just working from home all of the time at the moment, apart from the odd trip away for 1 or 2 nights. So
Yeah.
in that respect, in terms of trying to fit training in around my life for everyone, I'm kind of quite lucky in that respect, because
Yeah.
the only thing that stops me doing it is work commitments as opposed to family commitments.
Yeah, and so do you think the reduced travel has that sort of side of COVID been a blessing, or as the lack of social contact and contact with your work colleagues, is that generally a downside to it, or do you think it's more of a bonus?
I think initially it was okay. It was better, if you like, initially, because I work in the healthcare sector, so obviously that kind of went hugely busy.
Hmm.
So not having to travel around the country and everything was a bonus while I was trying to get everything done. But then a couple of months in, because I don't think anybody expected it to go on as long as it did, and a couple of months in, you do start to feel, as you say, the lack of actual social contact with people. And
Yeah,
you can have as many Zoom calls like this as you like through work,
yeah,
but when you're used to being in an office full of people and meetings with actual people rather than on a screen, it does start to affect you quite significantly. I think even the most hardened person, I think, couldn't say that they've been affected by it this
yeah,
time.
yeah. And so generally you've got quite a good setup for training, haven't you? I know your husband seems quite supportive as well, helping you to get
Yeah,
stuck in and enjoy the sport. But you've got some equipment at home, haven't you? You've got access
yeah,
to
I'm quite lucky with that. So obviously through COVID, what we did was we set up a bit of a home gym in the garage. So I've got various barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, bands, all that the like. The
yeah.
TRX is up, and then obviously got myself a turbo trainer when they actually came back into stock sometime around in June. So yeah, I'm quite lucky with that one.
And then how would you normally fit it in when you're away with work? Although you've not had to do it much, would you just take those as rest days when you're traveling with work? Or do you manage to, be so well prepared that you've got things in the car with you, or you're near a gym that you can use? What would you normally do from that side of things?
Oh yeah, so when I'm traveling, it's always two sets of suitcases. One is a work suitcase and one is a training suitcase,
Yeah,
just so that all my kit goes into one. And I usually will try and stay in hotels that have a hotel gym.
yeah,
But if not, when I'm at my main office, there's a David Lloyd not far from
mhm,
there. It's like within a mile and a half.
yeah,
And I'm really lucky in that I am a member of David Lloyd, so I can use that David Lloyd as well.
yeah, yeah,
Alternatively, because I know I know a lot of the areas that I go to now, I can set myself up a little run route.
yeah, yeah,
I can do that if I can't always get to the gym or swim. And being a member of David Lloyd and being able to use that one is a blessing when I'm away, because rather than just having to do a treadmill or
yeah,
whatever, I can actually go
yeah.
I go for a swim as well.
So I mean, that's the main thing to take from that is you make it fit, don't you? You do
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
needed.
I think you have to, because when I'm away with work, because I'm away and I'm away on my own, I will have a tendency to stay in the office for 12 hours a day, and
Right.
I'll be at 7 and finish at 7, because all you're doing is going to a hotel room and sitting on
Yeah,
your own anyway.
yeah,
So I'll make a point that I have to be prepared and take all my stuff with me, so that I know I've got to leave the office
Yeah.
at a reasonable time to go and do some training.
And as you say, for the social contact, it would either be go to the bar, wouldn't it, and sit there all night, or it would be go to the gym. So I think you're certainly making a better choice the majority of the time by going to the gym.
Yeah.
So what's brought you to triathlon? So what's your sort of sporting background, and what have you been into before coming to this?
Before this, I mean, if I go back to when I was a lot younger, I used to swim a lot. I used to swim competitively, and I love swimming. I always end up going back to swimming. But then, you know, when you kind of get older and you start work and things like that, and then I started doing group classes at the gym, basically.
Yeah.
And I was at that time, I was one of those kind of people that I wanted to know if I was doing it right, and it just wasn't enough that the instructor was telling me I was doing it right.
Yeah.
I needed the experts to tell me I was doing it right. So I just decided to become a Group X instructor.
Okay.
Part-time. So I did that for, 12, 15 years, part-time. Again, fitting it in around life and fitting it in around traveling. And then as I was traveling more, it was more difficult to fit the classes in, and I felt bad on the people that were coming to my classes. So I gave that up about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And but because I've always been into going to the gym and keeping fit, I didn't necessarily lose the motivation. But there was why am I doing it now?
Yeah.
Because I would stay fit to teach my classes, and it was like, well, I'm just doing things now, and it was good for a while. But I do think it impacted me, because I don't think I'd appreciated how much doing the classes had kept me fit and given me a reason to keep fit.
Yeah.
I do think it affected me. And then, and we've spoken about it before, a couple of years ago in 2018, I decided to take myself off and do like a body camp. It wasn't a boot camp, it was more of a holistic one anyway.
Yeah.
I did all that, came back, and it was like, actually, it made me realise that I do need to be a bit more goal oriented.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, I do need to have a reason to be doing it. I think you're okay for a while if you don't have a reason to be doing it. You can just do it and you can keep yourself motivated. But then you get to a point where you're going, same old, and am I improving or am I not improving? So, and actually, bizarrely, and that was in 2018, October 2018, and we had to write ourselves a letter, basically, that would be sent to us in 6 months.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I wrote that and then promptly left Ibiza, because that's where it was. And then I think it was in the January 2019, I was like, what am I going to do? Oh, you know what? I might as well try a triathlon, because why not? I was already a member of a running club, but I'm not a runner, and I don't think I ever will be. I was like, I'll try a triathlon. And bizarrely, I did that. I entered it in the June for the May, a sprint triathlon, because it was my end game, and it was a short-term end game.
Yeah.
And then bizarrely, I got the letter that I'd written to myself in the post in March, and there it was, goal number 1, complete a triathlon in 2019, and it had obviously just gone in.
Yeah.
You know, I had college, so that's what brought me to it, because it was a challenge. It was like, well, what challenge can I do that it's going to be enough of a challenge for me to push myself out of my comfort zone, but also that I could be relatively confident that I was going to be able to do it. I felt like I had the tools individually. I just needed to put them together.
Which is, I mean, that's really important for goal setting, isn't it? We shouldn't be setting anything that's totally out of your reach.
No.
But equally, if it's so easy to achieve, then you don't really gain anything. There's no growth in it. You're not
exactly.
going to really see it as a huge accomplishment, and therefore you don't get that self gratification for really, really digging deep and achieving something. So did you did that from pretty much just off your own bat? Just started doing some training, focused on being able to do the distances of a sprint triathlon, I presume.
Yeah, because like I say, I'm a swimmer, if you like. So that wasn't, I mean, it was like a 500-meter swim, which, you know, that was easy. It was a 5K run. The difficult bit for me was going to be the bike, because when I signed up to do a triathlon, I didn't own a bike. Hadn't ridden a bike since I was a kid. Kind of forgot about that bit, was involved. And that bit, that's actually the biggest bit. But got my bike, sorted that out. And it is achievable. The sprint distance is achievable, I think, on your own. Like I say, I was a member of a running club. My running had improved to a point, because I'm still not good at it, but it had improved to a point. So, I think that distance I could do I was confident I could do that on my own. And I was still in a really confident mood mentally as well, if that makes sense. I was in a really good place mentally. So I knew that I was doing it. There was
Yeah,
no
yeah.
question that I wasn't going to finish it. I was always doing that triathlon.
And did you pretty much just do that on your own, or were you getting help? Because I know in the running club that you're in, there's quite a lot of guys who do triathlon. Were you seeking some help and advice from them? Were they part of that journey of yours, or was it very much just yourself?
Well, it was probably just me really, and one of my friends who, like yourself, is a successful Ironman competitor, and she was made up that I'd decided to do my sprint triathlon. And to be fair to her, she came out with me. She came out with me running before I'd even decided to do the triathlon. She came out with me running, and then when I did decide, she was the one that came with me on the day and showed me around the course on the day and gave me all the rules and all that. Helped me understand all that, because I think that's the difficult part of it, especially for somebody like me. The rules, it was the rules and that got in my head.
Yeah,
Don't forget you've got to do this. Don't forget you've got to do that. And that's apart from the physical side of it, which I was fairly okay with. It was all that other bit. So having that other person there who had done it a number of
yeah,
times,
yeah,
say it's okay. You just need to think about this, and that helped me get through it. And because it was a sprint, I don't think I needed. I didn't look at the fact that I'd need a coach at that point, because, like I said, that the individual distances, when you put them together, and that's how I saw them bizarrely, was just three individual things. It wasn't a
yeah,
do three things one after the other,
yeah.
which I probably should have considered more.
Well, in the long run, certainly in the long run. So that, I mean, was that generally a good experience having completed that? And also, from the other side of it, did you make any glaringly obvious stupid mistakes that you look back on and have a little laugh about, like, why the hell did I do that or not do
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. I mean, and to answer your first question, yeah, it was. I think I smiled all the way through the whole thing, and which for me, smiling and running don't go together at all. But I went all the way through, and it helped that it was a glorious day weather-wise. It was beautiful. It was a lovely course. And I came across that line and I was smiling and laughing. And she actually said to me, she's like, "Oh, the tears are going to come now, aren't they? The tears are going to come." And the tears never came. It was just such a really, really good day.
Yeah,
Mistake, yeah, because I was so, I think I was so amped at the beginning to get going and get it done. And I got in, and I had a panic then. I was counting my lengths because it was an outdoor pool swim. I was counting my lengths and I wasn't sure how many I'd done. And I didn't want to my biggest fear was getting disqualified
yeah,
for something really stupid that would
yeah,
have been my entire fault. So have I counted enough lengths? And I was like this. And then you look at your watch and then you start putting yourself off. So that, was that. And then I did forget to put my race number on when I got on my bike.
mm,
Nobody told me. And
right,
off I cycled down the road, nearly crashed when I realised that I didn't have my race number on, ran back to get it. And they, just simple things like that. But I think the other thing that I hadn't considered, and everyone, sprint is not a hugely long race, obviously, but I do still think you need to think about your nutrition when you're
yeah,
racing.
yeah.
So I did it just all entirely on an empty stomach.
Right, so you didn't drink or really eat anything for the 2 hours or whatever it took. You
So at
just
that time, I had to stop to have a drink on my bike anyway.
yeah, yeah,
So I maybe stopped twice to have a drink of water. And then on the run, that's when you start to feel it kick in, I think.
yeah,
Even though it's only a 5K run, but your engine's still going and it's still getting depleted.
yeah.
So yeah, I was taking every drink possible when I was running, and the odd jelly baby got thrown down my neck
Yeah,
when someone
yeah.
gave me that.
But I mean, we've all, no matter where we are in the sport, we've all had these beginner experiences because we've all been novices at some point. And what's,
Yeah,
again, is just more interesting for you at this moment is those are still very fresh in your mind, probably because they're only like 18 months ago
yeah,
that you were having these first initial experiences with triathlon. And, I'm presuming that generally the feedback that you've had, the results, the training structure, the goal orientation of having a race setting, a plan for yourself, that's all been positive for you.
absolutely. Yeah, it's because obviously I did a few sprints last year, and then this year I decided to set myself the goal of an Olympic distance, but there wasn't any Olympic distance. So, well, it was kind of Alderford quarter, wasn't it? So that was something that I just thought, hang on, I was confident to sprint, this is next now. This is not next level, because, you know, it's not the full or anything like that. But this was, I can't do this on my own. I need an expert. And like I said earlier, when I was doing my Group X classes, the chap at the front of the class told me I was okay, but I needed an expert just to reassure me. I need that next level person to say, this is what you're gonna do, and this is how you do it properly. So that's why I was like, that's why I then obviously contacted yourself, because that's when I needed to take that jump. The training plan is so important, I think, and having that plan set for you, or with you, should I say, by somebody who knows it, has been there, has done it, and knows the pitfalls. It's not that you want to avoid the pitfalls, because you need to fall down some potholes to learn, basically. But as long as you've got that person who's in your corner, who's an expert, and like, been there, done it.
But like you say, you know, you've also got limited time, haven't you? You know, you've got a busy job, and I think it's important that whatever level you are in triathlon, that you make the most of that time. If you've got 8 hours to train, or you've got 12 hours to train a week, we need to make sure that we're doing actually, you know, well-structured training that's actually helping us achieve what we want to achieve. And we're not, again, what you said earlier on is that we're not just exercising. We're not just people who attend the gym just kind of for the sake of it, and then we have a little ride on a bike and we lift a few weights, and then we do a bit of stretching and we chat to our friends. As you know, with triathlon, it is hugely goal sort of orientated, and therefore every session has a point, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
So since we've worked together, how do you think your training is different now to what it was like under your own steam, you know, for the first, say 12 months or whatever, to now? What would you say the major differences are in what you're doing each week?
It's not necessarily the volume. Well, probably the volume a little bit, but just the absolute knowledge base that comes from you. So to train for a 5K, I would just go and run 5K.
Yeah.
All the time. And if it didn't beat the time that I last time ran 5K in, that was a disappointment. I'd just go swim the distance. I'd go and cycle, not the distance, but, you know, then that was it. That's what you do. But training with you, every workout is different, and every workout is different for a reason. So, you know, training in the different zones is for a reason. And it takes me a lot to not go and smash a training session. I would much rather do, you know, ridiculously hard intervals and absolutely ruin yourself every time. But you're teaching me that you don't do that, and these are the reasons why. So that's how my training's changed. It's become far more specific, but more enjoyable in the fact that when you take your long endurance ride, or you take your long easy run, when you do then come to do those sessions that you've got to absolutely smash out the park, you can, because you've already got it in the bag, and you know, you don't realize you have, because you're like, I'm never going to do it because I've not done it for 2 weeks, but it's already in there because of the training that's been set for you previously.
Yeah, that's good. And I mean, what you've said is very, very common. So many people and it's very common when people step up to the longer distances as well, because you still have those neuroses where you're worried, I'm not sure I'll be able to do the distance. And then you start just to repeat that same distance over and over again, and your training becomes very like monotonous and one-sided. Really, you're not developing yourself as an athlete. You're just doing one thing, and the main reason for doing it is to satisfy your brain and calm your brain down a little bit, to say, don't worry, you've done it. You've swam whatever it is, 160 lengths of a pool to do an Ironman, and therefore you come away going, oh yeah, that's great, but you're not actually improving as a swimmer. You're just literally doing the distance. And that's exactly as you've said. If you're training 5K, it might be better to do 1K repeats at slightly faster than your 5K pace, and therefore your 5K speed will get better naturally. But you don't. And then the other thing is, and I know I've been very guilty of this in the past, is looking to improve constantly. So every session or every other session is comparing yourself to what you did last time and last week. And yes, sometimes, you know, you might have a month where you do improve session on session, you get better and better. But equally, there'll be weeks and months where you don't really move forward very much for certain reasons. But we need to just be, you know, thinking about the bigger picture, that this is you know, it's a longer process, and it will ebb and flow. And you know, you've now so you completed, I mean, I think we'll let you have Alderford Quarter as an Olympic. I don't think you need to justify that the swim was a bit short. That's as good as an Olympic as you need to do. And then you
Yeah.
moved on from there and did another one at Shropshire, didn't you?
Yeah, I did sprint at Shropshire.
Yeah, so that's 2 down this year, which is pretty good because most people have not managed to fit any racing in. And then
Yeah.
you've just finished the season pretty much with a marathon distance, virtual London Marathon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which is a shame that you've not been able to do the full distance because, again, as in at the event, because it's a nice thing to be able to do and say that you've achieved.
Yeah.
But at least, again, that's another thing to tick off the goal list, isn't it? That you've achieved
Yeah,
that.
that's the thing. The thing that I've always said I'll never do, never wanted to do. I'm never doing a marathon. Why would I even want to contemplate that? And then the same friend that encouraged me to do
Yeah,
triathlon, she encouraged me to apply for the ballot, so I did and got in.
you're
So
very lucky. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but yeah, it's another thing that it's been ticked off. I now realise that I've got to do it all again next year, in the real one. But I've done it, so I know I can do it.
Of course you can.
And I think I remember talking to you about it and saying at the time when we started training together, I remember saying to you, if the actual postponed marathon comes off in October, have I got time to switch from this to that? And you really, really took the time to explain to me about how all the training that we do anyway for triathlon is such a good foundation for those other type of races that you're going to do, not just a triathlon, And I tell obviously there, at the end of an Ironman there is a marathon, so clearly you know how to train people for a marathon. But yeah, and that and just that gives you just that knowing that the plan will be tailored slightly and
Yeah,
changed slightly. That gives you the confidence that you go, yeah, I've never done that before, and it's not something that people. Well, I don't tend to go out and crack out a marathon every week. Some
no,
people do,
no, me
but
neither.
that gives you the confidence that it's okay. There's an expert who's always there telling you what to do to get you there, and you're gonna get there.
Yeah. So again, that's important. I think just a point to bring up is that as much as I like the sports science side of things, where I like to, delve into the facts and figures of a workout and see, how fast people are running or cycling and what power they're generating, what their heart rate's doing, so that I can actually see how their body's changing and how they're stimulating it to get better, which is, is a big part of coaching. But I think it often gets overlooked is the more softer skills to coaching, and that's how you actually develop relationships and feedback and talk to people. And I'm presuming that it's more that side of it that you will keep growing from. In the future you'll get benefit from somebody guiding you and showing you the way, not necessarily saying, oh, your pace is this and your power is that and your heart rate is such and such. And I think that's why sessions like this and just having a chat are really useful, because it helps me to understand how each of my athletes are a little bit different to each other, and how the way that I try to communicate with one is perhaps a slightly different way to I would with another. So how do you find it with the use of Training Peaks and the other text platforms, or chatting and meeting up, because we meet up in David Lloyd's every few weeks? How do you find that from a coaching perspective?
I find it I find TP really useful, because I'd never used anything like that before coming to TTC and coming to you. On the, like you said earlier, how every time you go out, you try and better yourself. And if you don't get that PB that time, and you don't get this, and you don't get that, TP is great, because when you start using it, by virtue of the fact that there's no data in there about you, you just keep getting medals and medals and medals and medals every single training session, and that's great. It's a great motivator initially. But when that falls off, because you can't keep doing that, the one thing that it makes you do is put your perceived exertion in, and put a note in. And I do remember one time I'd done a session and I hadn't put any notes in. It'd come through, and then I got a notification a little bit later, not much longer later, from you saying and it was like, that was a reminder. Make a note of how you feel, because you're not. And it was me going, oh yeah, I'm not going to get the medals every time, but actually it's a really good platform to be able to look back at some point and go, you know what, that I may have thought at the time that was a really bad bike, run, swim, whatever, but there's my reasons why.
Mm.
That's what was happening at that time. It could have been, you know, whatever. And that platform for being able to record those things, not like you say, the softer side sometimes.
Yeah, yeah,
It helps reinforce that you're always doing it for a reason.
yeah,
You're not
yeah,
going to get first, second, or third, or whatever every time, and there's a reason for it. So I find it really useful, and, you know, being able to send you a message whenever I need to, or, you know, we meet up a couple of times in
yeah,
a few times in David Lloyd. I find it really useful, because it's that feedback loop,
yeah, yeah,
which you need. You don't realize you need it sometimes, and I'm probably somebody that doesn't seek out feedback, or didn't seek out feedback, because you never want to be told rubbish or this, that, and the
yeah,
other. But
yeah,
it's actually really important to speak to it's actually really important to speak to your coach, I think, because it is a joint venture
yeah. Oh,
at the end
definitely.
of the day. Because I want to do well, you want me to do well, so it's a team effort.
Yeah. Oh
So
God, yeah.
you've got to get on, you've got to be honest, and it'll
Yeah.
work.
I don't know if people often perhaps realize how much, you know, a coach as such invests in the athletes, because you know, I do take it personally. If somebody does well, I'll share in that sort of glory and that achievement. You know, when you finish your marathon, I'm dead happy. That's what I
Yeah,
do it for. And equally, if somebody's having a rough time of it, whether it's social things or illness or something, I feel it for them as well. You know, because I want them to be doing everything really well. So it's nice to sometimes get the chance to actually, you know, explain that. So
yeah,
we've had a bit of a chat about where we're going over sort of winter time and what our focus is going to be over winter.
yeah.
Looking past that then, so you've set yourself a goal of a sprint distance in year 1, and you've pretty much set yourself a goal of an Olympic distance and a marathon in year 2. Where are we going in year 3?
So I know that next year I've got to do London in October.
It's over, yeah.
So it kind of gives me the beginning of the season to do whatever I want before I really have to focus on marathon training.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that I do need to do next year in the actual marathon is be better than this year. And it's about that. It's about being better. And I recall saying to you when we first started, you know, I'm never going to be an Ironman. I'm never going to be a 70.3. Next year there will be sprint. Next year there will be Olympic. Next year there could be 70.3
Mm.
as well. But we need to see how it goes. But there's nothing in me now that says, no, you can't do a 70.3.
No, of course you can. You
You
know,
want to do it, then
people have
you can do
capacity to do anything there. But you know, what's interesting as a final point really from this chat today is that you said at the beginning, I'm a swimmer. I see myself as a swimmer. You've already said I'm not a runner. You've also said I'm never doing 70.3, never doing Ironman. There's a lot of firm statements as to your
it.
identity there. But what's interesting is that the problem is that we tend to fall into believing those statements that we make. And what I'm trying to get across to you, I think, in a part of our relationship, is that your personality and how you are will change, and we're never fixed in any one sort of, you know, thought process. I think what's important for triathletes generally is to see themselves as that. And if you're going to
Yeah.
improve your running, you need to see yourself as a runner. It won't do us any good if you keep saying, I'm not a runner, I'm not a runner, but yeah, I'm giving you 4 or 5 runs a week to do. Because you're going to be battling against that mentally every session. I'm not a runner, I'm not a runner. And I think
Right.
that's a huge part of the coaching and the relationship side of it, is that, you know, it's
It is.
important that you are open to being a runner. And it's so, you know, it's great if you can accept yourself as a triathlete already, you know, 18 months into it. But you should definitely have the confidence to be able to see yourself as a triathlete and tell people, I am a triathlete. Because no matter what level you're at, you've done the events, you do the training, and therefore that is what you are. And I think that's important. That's really important.
Uh, part of the relationship is about breaking down that is confidence that we have sometimes
Yeah.
help because they in mind. Sports science is great because you know that every training plan you've got is absolutely backed up by somebody who knows exactly what somebody should do to get to achieve that.
Yeah.
But it's the other side of it as well. It's breaking down those barriers, exactly like you say, and changing the way you see yourself, changing the way you talk to yourself, changing your own belief system.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. There are some people out there that can do that by themselves. There definitely are, but they're a stronger man than me.
Well,
So
yeah.
coaching side of it is helps you change that belief system in yourself, just because there's that expert there.
Yeah, no, it will definitely change, and you'll change as a person as you keep repeating the same processes over and over again, and as you do see improvements and you start to identify as that sort of person, you know. So yeah, it's all good. Well, that's great. I think that's all I wanted to chat to you about. Is there anything else that you'd like to get off your chest before we finish it up?
No, well, no. The only thing I say is a lot of people might think that triathlon coaching is for the people, only for the people that are going to go and smash out an Ironman, or who are up there looking for wins or age group wins or placing.
Yeah.
And it's not. And I thought that, definitely thought that. There was no way that I thought it was for the enjoyment side of it, if you like, because and that's not. I'm never going to be going down that route.
You've said it again now. You've said it again. Never.
I have never imagined that I would, but do you know what I mean? And I think that's the only thing, is that it's not just for the elites. It's not for that at all. It's for everybody to get better.
Some of the boundaries that you're going to break,
yeah,
will be bigger boundaries than somebody winning an event. So those achievements are just as valid. And even if you enjoy your training more, even if you didn't race, but you came to me saying, well, I train, but I don't have any structure. I don't really know what I'm doing. So I'm just running 5K every couple of days. If I could give you a training program and you actually say at the end of the month, I have so much enjoyment now from what I'm doing. Yeah. Well, almost it's worth it for that. But I know people have to justify the monetary side of it as well. But no, that's great. Thank you very much for that chat.
Right.
And, I'll hopefully share this with a few people so that they can understand, a variety of athletes' points of view and where they're coming from. And that's great. And I'll see you in the gym shortly.
You certainly will. See you soon.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.